Been there, done that. The Cleveland Browns are flirting with matching the worst season in Detroit Lions history. Photo, David Richard, Associated Press. There were warning signs that went unheeded, hints they all missed. And looking back on the infamy now, it's easy to see where it all went wrong. In fact, for Dan Orlovsky, the last man standing at quarterback for the Detroit Lions in that winless 2008 season, and maybe the best man to ask about this year's Cleveland Browns, who at 0-15 are on the verge of joining the club. The hard part is deciding exactly when it dawned on him. Best he can figure, it was during an early season film session, not long after team president Matt Millen had been fired, and shortly before the Lions' starting quarterback, John Kitna, one of Orlovsky's close friends, had been exiled to injured reserve. It was unlike any team meeting I'd ever been a part of before, said Orlovsky, a fourth-year pro who'd never started a game prior to 08. It just didn't have a professional feel to it. It turned into a finger-pointing contest, everybody blaming everybody. And I just remember sitting back thinking, wow, I can't imagine this is how it's supposed to be done. Clearly, it wasn't, but by then, the die had been cast. And nearly a decade later, what's done is done, and can never be undone. Which is why the 34-year-old Orlovsky, recently retired after a 12-year NFL career, is on the phone from his home in suburban Philadelphia, rehashing the misery of 0-16 and offering a final warning to a Cleveland team that's one loss away from matching the 08 Lions record for futility. People ask me, why do you talk about it? Orlovsky said. Well, what am I gonna do? Avoid it? Pretend it didn't happen? No, you can't. And to be honest, I don't want those guys to have to go through it. Orlovsky's uniquely qualified to talk about that, too, having gone through it twice. Once as a backup turned starter in 2008, and then again in 2011 in Indianapolis, when then head coach Jim Caldwell named him the starter in Week 12 of a Colts team that was 0-11 on the season, having lost All-Pro quarterback Peyton Manning to neck surgery. Lions fans know the feeling. A Browns supporter hid his face a couple of weekends back as Cleveland marched closer to a winless season. Photo, David Richard/AP. Hard to put into words. I remember getting the news and going, oh, man, I know the reality of this situation. I knew what the long-term effects were, said Orlovsky, who did manage to lead the Colts to a victory a few weeks later, 2 wins in a row, actually to avoid another dubious distinction. It's hard to put into words what that felt like, to be honest. To go through it again and get it done and not have to do that twice, it was huge for me, personally. Because I think it reaffirmed a lot of what I thought about myself and my basic beliefs. And that's the other part that's hard to explain. How losing every game in a season, something only the 08 Lions and 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 0-14, have done in the Super Bowl era, can affect a man's psyche. Orlovsky said he's thankful not only for a second chance in Indianapolis,